Well, good morning. Good to see all of you. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you sharing Sunday morning with us today. My name is Joe Loughlin. I'm the lead pastor here. And on behalf of the church, I want to especially welcome those of you who are brand new with us today. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us online from wherever you are today. And we'd invite you to come and be with us in person some Sunday. We have a full morning every Sunday, 8 and 9:30 in the classic venue next door, led by our choir and orchestra. 9:30 and 11 in here, led by our band. And we have a live in-person teacher in all four services, both rooms. So we'd love for you to come and share Sunday morning with us sometime here in person. Maybe today is your first Sunday, and I just want to say welcome to you. And as one of the teaching team members, I get to be with you today, and I've really looked forward to this. And something happened at the 9:30 service when I was preaching in here that I don't think has happened yet in here, but it might in a second. But when I began to talk about the wrap-up of the digital detox, to be honest with you, the wind kind of came out of the sails in the 9:30 service. And I had even somebody come up to me and say, really, again, you wanted to do that? Yeah, one more Sunday? And that's what we're doing today. Now, just so you won't be shocked, next Sunday, just heads up, we're likely going to preach about the resurrection next Sunday, okay? Just so I thought we'd let you know that, you know. I mean, I remember somebody came to one of my church I used to pastor a long time ago on an Easter Sunday, and they complained because I preached on the resurrection again. And I knew that person hadn't been since the previous Easter. So they were like, dude, you got anything else? Is that all you preach? Well, yeah, okay. So anyway, today what we're going to do is talk about how we're going to move from our digital detox and digital fast into Easter. Because sometime this week, at your choice, if you've been doing this digital fast, you get to pick kind of when you're going to stop that and get back into like life back as normal. And we're going to talk today about a strategy or some ideas about how to really successfully re-enter life back to normal, or maybe even a new normal. You probably know this, but in space travel, there are two times in the space travel of a rocket when it's most dangerous and most critical that things are done well. That's at launch, right? And at re-entry back into the Earth's atmosphere, as we saw in 2003 with Columbia Space Shuttle on its 28th mission. As it re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, something had happened to its protective shield, and heat got too hot in the shuttle and on the shuttle, and the whole thing just disintegrated on the way back into the Earth's atmosphere, and all 7 astronauts were killed. Tragic, tragic thing. In its 28th mission, something like that happened. Maybe you've done some sort of like digital fast or done without something during Lent before, and getting back into your regular routine of life has always gone well. This could be like your 28th mission doing this maybe. I don't know. Or maybe your very first one. What I wanted to do is share some things with you today that I think will help you get back into a normal routine, back into the atmosphere of reality safely. And I want to look at something Jesus told us about in John 15. So if you're willing, take a copy of God's word, even in an electronic form. That's fair if you want to do that. In John chapter 15, in the Gospel of John chapter 15, we hear some words of Jesus. He uses an interesting metaphor that has to do with our relationship with him. If you could just think about your relationship with Jesus, and Jesus using this metaphor to describe your relationship with him and his relationship with you. So Jesus says, I am the true vine, my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me, that's us, a branch, every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it. We know about the pruning, right? Anybody else out there wish they could like tell God where to prune, where not to prune? Yeah, okay, yeah. God prunes it that it may bear more fruit. That's his purpose, is bearing more fruit. You are already clean, he tells the disciples, because of the word. Clean is the same word for prune. You are already clean or pruned because of the word which I have spoken to you. So keep on abiding in me. We'll talk about what that word means here in just a second. Keep on abiding in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, so neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, he or she bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Now, if anyone does not abide in me, they're thrown out. They're thrown away as a branch, and it dries up, and they gather them and cast them into the fire. They're burned. But since you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it shall be done for you. By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. Now, here's something free. I offered the 9:30 crowd. I want to offer it to you too. This isn't part of the sermon. It's just for yours free because you came today. I'm going to give this to you at the end of verse 8. How do people know that we are believers in Jesus? By the fruit that is born through our lives. Not our words, not our stances, not our righteous indignations, not our statements of theology. I believe this. People know we're followers of Jesus because of the fruit that is born through us into our lives. So that was free. Back to the reentry thing I want to talk about this morning. But first, before we get there, I want to unpack some of the words in this text because there's some words that are a little bit tricky for us to talk about, like abide. What's that mean? And pruning, yeah, ouch. Yeah, I don't like it, but it happens. Okay, why? And there's some scary words in here too. So I want to just kind of unpack these a little bit. Abide, really, your translation may say remain in me. I'm okay with that if you get the idea of like staying over. That's literally what the word means, is to stay overnight, to camp out with, to remain with, to stay over, to reside, to habitate, to sojourn with, camp out with. That's what Jesus is inviting his disciples to do, inviting you to do. This idea of pruning and cleaning is a purging. It's like if you have rose bushes like I do, every once in a while you have to like lop off the dead heads for it to bloom more rosebuds. So you have to get rid of those dead ones that aren't going to produce any more. So it's the pruning, it's actually a cleansing. In fact, the word we have in English, catharsis, is this same word right here in the text. So it's this deep, from the inside out, cleansing, purging, pruning back that God does in our lives. The dried up stuff, it says it's cast or thrown away. I'll just tell you, I think that's a repurposing of that, which still has value to it. It bore fruit, and then eventually it stopped bearing fruit. And like all plants, there are parts of it that have to be like taken off, not just pruned, but like taken out or thrown away. And it's still good for the fire to serve that purpose of a fire, but that's what it's there for. And then finally, the word I really want you to hone in on here is the word bear, bearing fruit. Notice that it doesn't say produce fruit, generates fruit, initiates fruit. It simply actually says bear or presents or shows forth. We're not creating anything. We're not producing anything. Only God can do that through us. We're just the presenters of it. The branch doesn't produce any fruit. The vine does that, but the branch just gets to show it off. So Jesus working in us is producing the fruit. We get the opportunity to bear it, to present it, to show it forth. That's what our role is. So as we think about these things and we re-enter a normal mode, we pick up our phones or we remove the grayscale. Anybody else doing grayscale on their phone like I've been doing now for 5 weeks? Just grayscale. My little grandson's picture's right there. He's in gray. And, it's really hard to do Wordle when you're in grayscale. It just really is. Okay, if you do Wordle, you know about that. Then if you're trying to follow a map and it's like you can't tell what's red, green, blue, whatever, yellow, can't tell any of that. So I'm looking forward to getting rid of the grayscale next weekend. But as we pick up our phones, turn off the grayscale, fire up those live streams that we're ready to watch again, turn those TVs back on, get back into our digital world, full bore. I wonder if we might be hearing Jesus say, hey, my friend, be careful with those things. As you re-engage with them, let's keep our relationship intact and in focus. In fact, I'm pretty sure that there's some things we don't need to pick back up. I wonder what things did you let go of that you sense Jesus saying, let's just leave that be. Let's just leave that right where it is. You put that away, that's actually something you should keep put away. Don't pick that back up. It's actually harming our relationship. Last summer, you guys as a church did something for me I've never had happen before in 40 plus years of ministry. You gave me a sabbatical for 3 months. It wasn't something because like I was in trouble or tired or whatever. It's just something this church does for its executive ministers, pastors, that every 7 years they get 3 months of sabbatical. And so I'd served 7 years. I got 3 months of sabbatical, and it was an incredible experience for me. And I have to tell you, one of the things I did during that is I stopped using Facebook. I just kind of like, I don't know what you call it, but I disengaged with Facebook. My account's still there, but nobody can see it because I can't think of the word of what it is. It's suspended. That's the word. I suspended my account, and I could get it back if I wanted to, but I thought I would do that come Labor Day weekend when I came back after the 3 month sabbatical. And guess what I did? I didn't fire it back up, and I still haven't done that because I sensed the Lord telling me, just me. I'm not saying he's telling you that. He told me this, that, hey, bud, it's better if you just keep that off. You're a better person. You're more like me. You bear more fruit when you are not messing with social media. Because you know what people do and say that gets you all wired up and going off, okay? So like I have kept it off this whole time. Maybe something like that you've discovered in this digital detox that you just need to let go of because you let go of it and God's saying, yeah, let's not pick that back up. Let's not do that. Peter, the apostle, said something really similar to this way in one of his letters to the churches back in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 3. This is what he says. He says, for the time already past is sufficient for you to have carried out the desire of the world or Gentiles. The time already past is sufficient. Whatever time, Joe, you've spent on doing Facebook, that's enough. That's it, okay? For the time already past is sufficient for you to have carried out the desire of the Gentiles, the world, having pursued a course of sensuality, lust, drunkenness, carousals, drinking parties, and abominable idolatries. Did anybody else notice that he mentioned drinking twice in there? Yep, he did. Okay, drunkenness and drinking parties, two different things. I'm thinking maybe we should make note that Jesus mentioned it twice. Ouch, right? Okay, yeah, okay, just pay attention. Maybe that's for you. I have no idea, but anyway, it's just something to think of. There's got to be some things in your life that, that you've let them go now. Jesus would say, let's just leave that right where it would be. Let's let it stay there. I've used an analogy maybe too many times here in my leadership at First Temple, but I still like it because to me it communicates kind of what I'm thinking about even in this moment, is I think about red lights, yellow lights, and green lights. Those things we should stop, those things we should be careful with, those things we should start doing. Red, yellow, green. So in this case, I wonder if you might think about, are there things that are your red lights from Jesus? That he says, you've stopped that, keep it stopped. It's hurting. And will you look this way for a minute? I'll tell you, I think probably, if we're honest, most of us probably have some things that really we've allowed ourselves to drift into that are of such a nature that are hurting our relationship with Jesus to the point where I think Jesus would say, keep that stopped. Don't pick that back up. And I don't want to throw anybody, especially our band. It's not the end of the sermon, but I am going to stop for a time of silent prayer for just a minute. But we're going to keep going after that. So, band, just stay where you are and don't be thinking, whoo, shortest sermon ever. Awesome, great, let's go. No, don't be thinking that. Let's take 30 seconds to just silently pray. And you pray while I pray about those things that we're not going to pick back up because Jesus has said, hey, leave that alone. It's time. The time past is already sufficient. Would you spend time talking with Jesus about those things? Amen. Okay, so as we step back into normal life with our digital engagement that we were doing before the digital fast, I think about Jesus when he was in the wilderness for 40 days fasting and praying, and then at the end of that 40 days being tested by the devil, and then he stepped from that into his ministry because he had just gotten baptized at the beginning of his ministry by John the Baptizer, then the 40 days in the wilderness, fasting and testing, and then he started his ministry, which would lead him all the way to the week we're celebrating this week, and the cross, and then the empty tomb. So I think about us as we step back into from our time of fasting into a new normal, if you will. I want us to think about, what things did you see God prune back in you, where you could see some fruit grow eventually? Where did you see God prune back? What did he cut away? What did he trim off and say, maybe this is sort of like a yellow light. Maybe it's sort of like a yellow light to you, where he says, be careful. It's okay that you pick that back up, but be careful. So I remember when I was in the sabbatical last summer as well, one of the things I did, well, first of all, I got to tell you, our team did such a great job last summer. This is the wildest thing ever. I didn't think this would ever be possible, but it was. For 3 months, I did not look at email. I did not get a text. I didn't get a phone call for 3 months, and everything actually worked just fine. In fact, before it was over with, I started thinking, they're going to figure out that they don't actually need me. I better get back to work. All right, yeah. So, I had that feeling, but it worked so well. I didn't look at email, didn't get a text, didn't get a phone call, and everything worked just fine. So when I came back and phased in, I knew I'd have to pick email back up because we do so much with email. Our work here in the office is email all the time, okay? And so I had to figure that out. And so one of the things I did, 72 hours before I came back, I decided for that day, 3 days before I came back, I would just look at June's emails. I was going June, July, August, and at the end of each month, Cheryl Jones, our administrative pastor, was so gracious and nice. She actually summarized the month, the decisions that were made, the topics that came up, the problems that happened, which were very few, and the decisions they made, and she would summarize that all in a little monthly summary that she would send me on the last day of the month. And so what I did 3 days out from coming back is I read all of June's emails and Cheryl's summary, then I closed my email. The next day, 2 days out, I did July, and then the next day, the last day before I came back, I did August, so that I was caught up, ready to go. But then I had to make a decision. What I had done is decide that I would make sure that I kept email in a proper place so that I only look at email at certain times of the day rather than just on all the time and constantly pinging and notifying me that I've got somebody else that's emailed me about something and turned out to be spam and I just got distracted from the thing I was working on, had to start all over on the project. Can I get an amen? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah, so I decided what I would do is I'd just do email at certain times of the day. And that worked for about the first 2-3 hours coming. No, teasing about the first 2 or 3 weeks coming back, that worked pretty well. And then I got back into watching email all the time and having it on all the time. And then something happened the first of this year. It never happened for me before. I actually began to look at email from work on my phone, which I've never allowed to happen. My team's always known that when I'm not here, out and about doing work outside the office, or if I'm in the evening or on the weekend, if they need to get a hold of me, email, I'm going to not even see. They need to text me or call me, and it better be text or call pastor on a weekend worthy. And so they rarely do that. But I started looking at email on the weekend. I had to let that email get back into control of my relationship with God even. My time off, my sabbatical, even my weekly Sabbath that I do. Checking email from work on my day off. So in this digital detox, what I've done is I've put email back in order. I now only look at email at certain times of the day. That's something that's a yellow light for me where God says, you know what, that could get kind of out of control. Now, Ryan talked about a lady last week that has some really good things to say about this sort of stuff. Her name is Felicia Wu Song. She wrote a book called Restless Devices. And something in that book I want you to see that she wrote that I think would really help all of us. She's a Christian sociologist, author, and speaker. And this is what she said. I'm troubled to find that instead of abiding in Jesus and letting him abide in me, I'm becoming someone who abides in the digital, and the digital abides in me. Ouch, right? Yeah. So what are your woe things? What are the yellow things that Jesus may be saying, hey, it's not a bad thing that you're involved with that, but keep it in check. Be careful with it. Put some limitations on it. Put some boundaries there so that it doesn't adversely impact our abiding together, our dwelling with each other, our staying over with each other. Finally, this morning, I want to ask you, where did you see fruit during this digital detox? Where did you discover some new spiritual practices or exercises? You know, as both Ryan and Abby have told us in the last few weeks, it's not just about disconnecting from the digital, it's about connecting with God. Taking the opportunity in our time of fasting from, Abby said, fasting from the digital to fast for connection with God. Ryan said it where whenever we actually deny ourselves the digital engagement, what we do is we give Jesus space in our lives. And that's where fruit can really be born in our lives, the work of God, the good and lasting work of God in us. Where did you discover that? What are some ways that you gained some spiritual growth because of your activity with Jesus, abiding? I want to read this invitation again from John 15. I want to read it again over you. And by the way, I want to tell you that if you're not a follower of Jesus Christ, you're here today, you're just kind of checking Jesus stuff out. You're not really sure if you want to become a follower of Jesus. Or if you're watching online and you're just you've been having questions and you're just not sure if this Christianity thing is really all it's supposed to be and you just don't know. I want to tell you this today, more than anything else, what Jesus is doing is he's inviting you into relationship with him. He's inviting you into relationship of like staying over, like camping out, like residing, dwelling, sojourning with him. And the relationship is two-way. It's not just you with him, it's him with you. He wants to do that with you. And so that's really what it's about. I know that a lot of times what happens is we put such an overemphasis on what happens after we die from this earthly life because we want to be able to be sure and go to heaven and be with Jesus forever. And that's going to happen. But there's so much of an emphasis on the hereafter, we forget to focus on the here and now. And this invitation from Jesus is really about the here and now. John 15, listen to it again. I am the true vine, my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it, purges it. Catharsis happens so that it may bear more fruit. If you garden at all, you know the reality of that. You have to get rid of the spent, dead stuff that's there. Even if it was bearing fruit, it won't bear in that same spot again. You have to do something there. It's what God does in our lives. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. You're already purged. You're already pruned back because of the word which I have spoken to you. So keep on abiding in me, dwelling with me, staying with me, remaining with me, staying over, camping out, sojourning with me. And I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, so neither can you unless you keep on abiding in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. The person who abides in me and I in him, he or she bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away as a branch. He dries up, and they gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide, or since you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, it shall be done for you. By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit. So prove to be my disciples. That phrase, bear much fruit, is the idea of exponential kind of fruit bearing. Over and over and over and over and over again, new and new and new and places that weren't before. Where have you noticed fruit in your life? I've talked a couple of places in my life that I've mentioned in the last few weeks. I've talked about praying as listening and scripture reading as listening. Today I want to talk real quickly about what I call, or what's called, the game with minutes. It's presented to us by a missionary named Frank Labach. He spent most of his time in the Philippines sharing the gospel with children and families in the Philippines, and he would get discouraged and downhearted, and because the work was slow, and he would kind of struggle a little bit and be isolated from his family and loved ones and friends back in America. And he found a way to overcome that. He found a way to grow in his relationship with Jesus. And that was by finding time to focus on the presence of God. You know, Jesus is always with us. He's always abiding with us. Even when we forget that he's even there, even when we forget to abide with him, Jesus does not forget to abide with us. He's always there. And sometimes you and I go minutes or hours or days or weeks without even remembering that Jesus has been right there the entire time. His ever-present dwelling, sojourning with us is ongoing, even when we don't even think about it. What Laubach discovered is that he could do a game with minutes so that he'd start to really focused attention on the presence of God with him. And he started with this is kind of, doesn't seem like very practical to me, but he started with 1 second every minute, remembering that Jesus was with him. Then he developed it to the point where he spent 1 minute of every hour thinking about the presence of Jesus with him. And then 1 hour of every day. And he developed it so much to the point where he began to experience times where around the clock, 24 hours for a week at a time, he would be able to remember the presence of God with him at all time. So maybe that would be something where you would just think about the presence of God all the time with you, with you, with you. What's your green light? What is your I'm right here, Joe, from Jesus? I haven't gone anywhere. I'm right here. Before the band comes out, I wonder if you might think about the voice of Jesus inviting you to this invitation in this way. As if the voice of Jesus were saying to you personally, I want you, as you enter into life, normal, digital engaged, I want you to be still and know that I am God. I want you to be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be. Not do. Not produce. Not try to generate. Just be. And let God bring fruit born in your life. This little way of doing this very famous psalm, Be Still and Know That I Am God, doing this way came from Abby Villagrana, our missions minister. She shared this with us in our Monday morning staff chapel that we do every week about 2 or 3 months ago. And I've been waiting for her to use it in a sermon, and she didn't, so I decided I'd use it today. And she didn't invent it. She got it from somewhere else, but I've even got these on a card out in the connection point if you want to take a copy with you today. I've got a few cards left. But I wonder, would you bow your heads? Would you close your eyes? Would you let me pray this over you? And if you could hear this not as Joe's voice, but as the voice of Jesus speaking over you. I am the true vine. My Father is the vine dresser. You are the branches. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be. Amen.